to another episode of the Fanzone podcast. Your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the Fanzone podcast. So the news is in. Bolton Wanderers have confirmed that Ian Evatt has left Bolton Wanderers by mutual consent. Will he, won't he? Well, now we know. Defeat at home against Charlton Athletic sealed the deal and saw Ian Evatt depart alongside Pete Atherton, Stephen Craney and Matt Gilks. And we are back. Episode 122. There is a lot of you in the chat this evening, so a very warm welcome to you all. There's already too many to go through. But yeah, we're looking forward to this one. What we'll do before we get stuck in, the format of the show is as follows. We'll start off business as usual. We'll dissect Charlton very quickly, and we will move very swiftly on to the Ian Evatt-shaped elephant in the room, and we'll get the show on the road. We've got a phone in later on as well, so if you fancy taking your comments out of the live chat and...
That's a phone, Ben. That's the old school sign for phone.
If it's an Ian Evatt-shaped elephant, what's his trunk?
I'm not just like I'm not go there. I'm just going to say that, and it's like, no, don't.
Right, Fanzone phoning. If you want to get involved with that and take your comments out of the live chat and onto the episode, then if you DM us on Twitter, send us a little message. We will pop you over a link to come and join the stream. You can do video, you can not do video, you can do audio only, however you fancy. Come and have your say, and we'll get you all on. We've got some guests lined up for you as well. We won't tell you who, but
not Amy.
Why?
I don't have anything about for her.
And it's not Ian.
No, it's not. It's not Ian. No, can you imagine? We'll get stuck into that very soon, but first, let's not forget Charlton, and we'll fly through our business as usual segment, as I said, before we dissect Evatt's departure and host our first ever Fanzone phoning. So, without further ado, we'll kick off with post-match reactions. Post-match reactions, of course, brought to you by Johnston Tiling. So a big thank you to those guys. Right, there's a busy one this evening. So get your comments in the chat, and we'll pick some of those out as well. But Chris, over to you first. I mean, what are your reflections on the Charlton game?
You really struggled to get to that point.
Took the words out of my mouth, Liam. What match? Right, I think, you know what? Given what happened this morning, I think it was a fitting conclusion to his reign. I think it summed a lot of things up. So we played some vintage Evatt ball at times for about, as Cole will say, 15 minutes. Did you say, Cole, do you reckon? 10.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, 10, 15 minutes.
No, let's be generous. It's quite positive, so now we'll go with 15.
Yeah.
We show glimpses of the DNA that Mr. Evatt referred to. It was better than Cambridge, but by jingo, that's not difficult. But then it all fell to pieces. And I think if you could sum up his 4.5 years in a game, last night was it. It's the first time in a while that I have not felt angry towards him that we lost. I don't think we deserve to lose the game, but given the fact that it has resulted in him losing his job or mutually parting ways, I would say it's a fitting end, and I think it's the right thing to happen. But I think we saw glimpses of what Joel Randall can bring. I thought we looked quicker out the back without Rico Santos there. I thought we looked a little bit more assured, given the fact we had to work with no height. like we did at Wickham away. I thought we did all right, but 5 out of 10 as an overall, given what we're capable of. And that's my synopsis of last night.
The comments very much agreeing with you. A better performance, but still not good enough. Obviously, quite a way to go until that performance was anywhere near the standard it should be. Dan, looking ahead then, I mean, it's an opportunity now to completely reset, almost play with a big sense of freedom. Should a manager not be appointed before Saturday when we face Huddersfield? What needs to be different from the Charlton game from a performance perspective? And do you think that almost relief of some pressure might help?
Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, the mood around the camp will instantly be lifted now. With what had gone on this season, the noise that we on and off the pitch clearly has affected them. The argument whether they're playing for him or were playing for him or had effort or desire has now disappeared. They've now got a clean slate, a blank canvas to go out and show us that the issue has now been resolved and they can do it on the pitch, because they need to answer with their feet now and let the football do the talking, because the board have done their bit. So it's now up to the players to go out there and do their bit. When they cross that white line. I mean, last night was better. Was it good? I probably wouldn't put it in the good category. I'd probably just say it's better than what we've had this season, but it's not difficult. Conceded 2 really poor goals against a firmly mid-table team. Was it good? No, it wasn't good. It was far from it, to be honest with you. If we want to push on and salvage this season, I mean, we are only 3 points off the playoffs, so the season isn't over. If the new gaffer can come in and get us firing, then the playoffs are very much in reach. But equally, the players need to now step up and do their bit. And I'll be watching from Barrow.
Hey, congratulations.
If anyone hasn't seen Barrow's new manager, Brandon sent us their tweet the other day, their announcement. Go and have a look. It's some remarkable similarities to our Dan. Colin, I suppose you're dying to talk by this point.
As ever, you know me.
Charlton, obviously disappointing. Huddersfield presents a new challenge. But let's talk more broadly. Rest of the season, what are you looking at? What needs to be done? Imagine you were appointed the manager of Bolton Wanderers, heaven forbid. Where are you going from here?
I think what I want to start by saying is, despite my antics at the beginning of the podcast, of course, I am very, very, very happy that Ian Evatt is no longer manager of our great football club. I thought that this change should have happened after that Huddersfield game, as I've said several times. But I want to start by saying thank you for the memories that he has created. It's a bit of a shame that it's ended in this way. I will try my very best to remember his time as Bolton boss in a positive way, not remember the last 12 months and try and remember the last 3.5 years and remove that recency bias. So thank you very much for the memories, Ian Evatt, and I wish you all the very best in the future. As far as I'm concerned, what I'd like to do is do something that Ian Evatt probably will learn from, I would imagine, in for his future roles, is I want whoever comes in to simplify how we play. I think it's obvious that we've got a collection of really good footballers at this level. There's no denying that. Yes, the defence could do with strengthening, which has happened with the lad coming in from Newcastle. I'd like a defensive midfield and I'd like more of a prominent forward. But I think what Ian Evatt was guilty of was overcomplicating things from time to time. In fact, quite a lot of the time. And you might say overcoached the level of footballer in this league. So whoever comes in, I'd like them to kind of go back to basics a little bit and remind them of what they're good at, but also at the same time put a little bit more of a structure in place and allow them to just do the simple things well, first and foremost. Kind of answers your question.
I'd get your name in the hat then. Ange, I mean, there's so much talk around potential managers, and the possibilities are endless. There's a lot of candidates, I'm sure, that will be in the mix for the job. But what is it you want to see going forward? I mean, similar to the question we just asked Colin, what is it for you that the players could benefit from in these next maybe few weeks, few months?
I suppose it's more. We can do massive things. I think I for one now am quite excited about having a Huddersfield ticket. I think the atmosphere will be much better. I think people will understand how important our jobs are to get behind them at the minute. Certainly, while we've not got a manager in place, an official manager. I have faith that the three that are currently in charge will have been coaching in the same way, similar way, because that's the whole point of a B team, isn't it? So I don't think that'll be too much of a difference for them. But yeah, I think we just need to kind of be what we can be. We know how good we can be as a set of fans, and I think now is the time for us to step up a little bit. We've expressed our dismay or our grumblings with what's been going on prior to today, and now it's our turn to kind of get behind them and help them out a little bit.
Yeah, all fair stuff. We'll move on and away from post-match reactions. Thanks for all of your comments. Obviously, we've pulled some up throughout the show. It's difficult to address all of them individually when there are so many of you. By my calculations, there's 408 of you watching along currently. So thank you very, very much indeed. We'll move on though, and it's that time again. Fanzone man of the match. Considerably easier, I think, than most weeks, I'd say.
Yeah, get it in the chat. Thanks to iHeat for sponsoring the segment. As always, if you fancy a new boiler, get yourselves over to iHeat online and have a see what they can do for you. But yeah, I think there's a couple of shouts from last night. I got a couple of shouts, but stick it in the chat and then we'll quickly go around the panel and see what we think. So we'll start to my no one's that side. To my right, Dan, we'll start with you.
I think there was obviously some more improved performances last night as well, but I think one man is finding some form now, finding his feet, he's settling in, and also making that position on the left-hand side his own. Quite a lot of comments already in the chat for him, but for me, the man of the match would be Shabby Sean.
Super, thank you, Dan. Ben?
Josh Sheehan. It's just unbelievable.
I didn't even know we were going to say.
Brilliant to have him back. He's been missing, and you've noticed it. And as soon as he comes back in the midfield, although we played with a 4, it just looked better, felt better, ran as it should do. And yeah, back to his best. It would seem.
Yeah, do you know what?
Celebrating St. David's Day now.
I wonder where that was coming from then. It's like it's someone joining.
Even if he wasn't playing, he's still your man of the match, isn't he, Ben?
Yeah. When he was out injured, just
he replied to Ben's DM, so he's man of the match.
Can we just put Mark Rowley's comment up, because absolutely been kind of forgotten a little bit that the paramedics are looking after the guy that it's kind of gone under the radar with everything that's gone on today. That I don't know if we've had a update on how that fella is, but they were quick. They did. We could see from our side, like they were super quick to attend and did what they needed to do and got him out of there. So yeah, hats off to them lads and lasses. I'm sure there were some of those as well.
Mark Crowther, if you could put your comment in the chat again, that would be brilliant. I'll keep an eye out for it. There's a lot of them this evening, so you'll have to be there with us.
Sheehan. Right, Colin, who are you having?
You know what, right? until he ducked away from the ball, I thought
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought you were playing well, to be honest with you. Our mate, Aaron Morley, at the centre half position. As Chris, what were you calling him last season, Chris?
Who's that?
Aaron Morley's twin.
Oh, Gethin Morley.
Gethin Morley, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I thought he played all right, Will Forrester, to be fair, but ducking away from that, I don't know whether he got a shout from the keeper or not. I'm not got a clue, but he obviously had a bit of a nightmare with that, so it kind of went down in my pecking order for man of the match. I thought that Joe Randell was really good last night. I thought, considering he's only been with us a couple of games and had a couple of training sessions or a week's worth of training, I think we can see how much he will add to this squad. And obviously he scored, and he was heavily involved in a lot of the attacking in the second half, especially. So I'm going to give it to Joel Randall, should I say?
Joel Randell. Chris.
I'm going to go with John McAtee for a wonderful forward role with Pike in the penalty area with no one anywhere near him. I thought it's got to be one of looking tripped over his socks. My man of the match was Josh Ian, because we love Josh. Because he just looked a class apart last night, I thought. First full game back after injury, and he was, wonderful to watch him back in full flow. Josh Ian.
So we've got 2 for Josh. I think someone said something, I was going to say something similar in the chat about him and Joe Randall are very similar looking players in the middle of the park. Yeah. There's a couple of times I was like, oh shit, which one was it? I thought they both had a really good match, and I thought Sabi Sean had a good match. So those were the 3 that I had it down to. So do you know what? Because he's just come back from injury, and because he's a wizard, Harry, we'll give it to Josh Sheehan.
There is an awful lot of you in the chat this evening. And there's 501 watching live, and 175 of those are on YouTube. And I know for a fact that not 175 of you are subscribed to the Fanzone podcast. But if you are enjoying the show so far, then you can expect more of this, sometimes 4 times a week. So get yourself on over, click subscribe. If you're watching it on a telly, then just pause it and subscribe on your phone or something. Chris, you look frantic. What are you looking for?
Big sound.
I was doing a Rick Astley dance.
Right, yeah. Not looking for anything, are you not?
Me?
Yeah.
What?
Excuse me.
That?
Where'd you find that?
There's a story sit down there.
So yes, those of you that are watching along, get yourself subscribed and come and tune in more often, because if we can have this many viewers, it'll be lovely.
Do a like as well. Do a like.
Yeah.
Ooh, give us a like.
Comment.
I tell you what, if you're happy that Ian Evatt has left, like the podcast tonight, like tonight's episode.
There
we are. All you need to do.
Right. We'll hand over to our resident statman for not a new segment. There's too many words. I've got the chat in the right hand side, and all I can see is just 1,000,001 words.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Get Stat On with the Statman. Of course, this segment is sponsored by John Louise Salmon. Thank you very much for that. And you know the line: if you're buying a gaff, give her a bell. Of course, incredibly more complicated. But I am just a man who quite likes football. And as a man who likes football, let's move on to the footy. Huddersfield next game. Bloody hell, that is a big game for the new gaffer. If it isn't a new gaffer and not an interim boss. Either way, bloody massive game. And of course, the return of Dion Charles. So that'll be quite interesting. I should say, a little bit of self-promo. When the new gaffer does get announced, I will be doing a bit of analysis over on my Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. But we'll cut the self-promo for now. Sorry about that. Let's move on to the game, because this is going to be bloody good. Michael Duff is their manager. I'm sure you'll be aware of him. At Huddersfield, he's managed 32 games, won 17, lost 9. Not bad in the slightest. And he favours a back three, which you'll be quite familiar with, obviously. A 3-5-2, to be specific. But he does get his left-sided centre-back up very high, as you'll see now on the screen. Number 17 is the left-sided centre-back, and he is highlighted. And the red on the screen is where he is the most in this game. In this particular game, it was Blackpool. And you can see just how high up the pitch he gets. And for there to be any red there, he has to be stood there for at least like a couple minutes minimum. Excuse me. So, you know, he does get forward. And that is interesting. And we'll come onto that just a little bit later. But as there is a reason the left-sided centre-back gets so far forward. And you can see now all the screenshots here were quick fire. But no, yeah. They attack a lot down the wing, especially down the left-hand side, which is obviously why number 17 gets so high, and number 10, who's the left wing-back, also gets quite high. So, you know, this will be an interesting game, to say the least. Anyway, we'll move back on to the stats. They like to keep the ball in the middle of the pitch. I should have said that before I took the screenshot off the screen. But, yeah, they like to keep the ball in the middle, and that is because they like having possession so much. So back to the stats. They are 5th for possession in the league, which is actually less than you. However, I think they'll probably dominate the ball in this game, being that it's at Huddersfield. And who the manager? Sorry, it's not that type of podcast. But yeah, who is your manager going to be? Not a Scooby. They're also, quite interestingly, top for big chances missed. So that is quite interesting, with 50 already, which is a bit mental. But that could be why they signed Dion Charles, who knows. Out of possession, they tend to win the ball a lot in the midfield rather than up high. 509 times in the middle third, which I do find a little bit mental. But yeah, that is quite high. However, one defensive struggle that they do have is they're quite low on interception numbers. And they're very good at tackling, but not so good at reading the play and winning the ball back from a pass. So this game will probably be, if you're going to have any of the ball, like really, it's going to be about passing it round them or through them rather than trying to dribble, which has been quite different to most teams recently. Anyway, we'll go back to the screenshots now. We're all over the place here. I'm sorry, this is just quick fire. So this is from the Blackpool game, and this is basically, if you have any chance of winning, this is how you're going to win. They are very good to hit on the counter. So the left centre-back and the left wing-back are both pushed forward, and they've been caught out of possession. And Blackpool are attacking down that side, which is, of course, their right-hand side. And they're basically in and a little bit outnumbered. But this is how you win on the transition. Right, so we'll move to the next one. Number 17 is absolutely crapping his pants and doesn't want to bring him down because he's scared he's going to get booked or give away a penalty. So he doesn't touch him, and the winger literally just takes a man out of the game that easily. And then he's one-on-one with a bloke who'd be number 4 in the middle of the three, who's not good at wide defending. He's literally just a normal centre-back, and he's absolutely crapping his pants. So we'll move on to the next one. Yeah, the winger cuts inside, and he manages to get across this guy because his balance is off, because he's not used to defending from a man running at him. And yeah, the winger literally just cuts across him and fires it into the bottom corner because he's got significantly more time and space than he should do. So yeah, my advice to either the new gaffer or the interim boss, whoever is in charge of this game, is literally not park the bus, but sit off in a bit of a mid-block, maybe play a 4-4-2. And whoever's on the wing, which would be Sean or OC Tutu, maybe, as soon as you win the ball back, run. Just don't even look backwards. Just expect a long ball coming your way, because that is literally how you're going to win this game. And it might not be the best watch, but let's be honest, this game isn't really about how you play. It's just about the result. And I'll let you get back to the rest of the podcast, because I'm sure this is going to go on for quite a while. Hopefully HR won't kick off too much of a fuss. But no, I'm only joking. Enjoy the rest of the podcast, and I'll see you very soon. Goodbye.
HR won't be kicking up a fuss. Couple of comments to go through. Brandon, it's slightly concerning that you're watching me in the fan zone and then only putting a comment on the podcast to let me know that you were there. Don't be afraid to come and say hello. I do prefer pizza to humans. I won't bite
To
you.
be fair, Ben, he did mention this the other day, but he said he wasn't up to you because he thought he might have been trying to sneak a piece of your pizza.
Yeah, you were scranning a full fratelli, so we left you to it.
Well, yeah, I mean, fair enough. I'm not going to bring that one up. I'm just gonna put you in the timeout zone, Michael. You know who you are. David, I thought Callum would have done an analysis on our next manager. We don't really know who it's going to be yet, so we'd be probably running a bit blind on that one. And Hugh Norris, it's a pleasure to have you back. Thanks for letting us know that you've never kissed a girl. Pleasure to have you with us once again. We couldn't shift you even if we wanted to. Right, let's get back stuck into the action. And Chris, fan focus time.
Bloody hell. No idea what could be in this.
Well, it's a unique one. Well, I hope so. Anyway, bloody hell, don't want too many of these. There's only one thing to talk about, isn't there, really? And that is the mutual departure of Ian Evatt.
Before we get into that,
yes, Dan.
Can I just bring this up? Because for
He's
those
been
that
badgering you for a few weeks.
well, dear me, for those that aren't aware of this, myself and Brad had a bet that he didn't think we'd make the playoffs. I said we would. But if Evatt lost his job, the bet would be null and void. Well, a few podcasts ago, I said that if I did win the bet, then I'd want Brad to donate the money to the Motor Neuron Disease Association because a good friend of mine sadly lost his life on the 15th of December through that horrible illness, motor neuron. The bet is now void, but Brad, being the legend that he is, still going to do 50 quid to MNDA at the end of the season. So I'll do the other 50 quid at the end of the season, Brad. So £100 will go to MNDA. Thank you very much for that. And in the spring, well, in the spring, I'll be jumping out of a plane for MNDA, and so will Colin. He doesn't know it yet, but he's not having a parachute. If anybody wants to donate for,
hey, you know what?
Without a parachute, please do.
I would love to jump out of a parachute with a parachute.
I would
love to jump out of a plane with a parachute on. However, I have looked into it, and these days, unfortunately, because I've had too many lager shandies, I'm a bit too heavy for it. You have to be under a certain weight.
Ooh,
so, yes, you do. I actually want to do it. So, unless I lost a few pounds, then I won't be able to do it.
Well, you're doing Coach to 10K or something, aren't you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, anyway. It's not a Weight Watchers show, this. Can we get on with it?
Hey, is that a takeaway in Churchtown?
Yeah. Just opens. Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, Chris. Back with you, mate.
Yeah, cheers, mate. Yeah, so obviously, where do you begin? Obviously, the news broke this morning that by mutual consent, Mr. Evatt and the board decided it was time for a fresh start. Sorry, these comments. I'm going to have to turn them off. Stop it. This is serious. This is a pivotal moment for our wonderful football club.
People are in good spirits, Chris. What can we say?
I know. You know what? It's like a weight's been lifted. Speaking of losing weight, it has been like a weight's been lifted.
Into a plane, not with a parachute on it.
Yeah, but Colin jumping out of a parachute. Can't get my head around that. So we're going to throw this open. It's a bit of we're going to raw dog it a little bit in the sense that obviously everybody is entitled to an opinion. get them in the chat. We're going to have some live phone-in activity. But before we do, going back to what Colin was saying before, and I'm going to make this quick as I can, because we have got a queue of guests ready to come on, is to say thank you to Ian, his backroom staff, and for what he's done. To summarise, obviously, he joined us from Barrow 4.5 years ago. We were on the bones of our arse in terms of morale, league position. You know the score. You know the story.
Onions, etc.
You know the drill. Harry Brockbank. It was a horrible time. And he's brought a connection back with the fan base. Obviously, looking at recency bias, obviously you're going to remember that. But you can't help but think that given all the comments on Twitter today, I think that his legacy has just about been kept intact despite the last 12 months of, well, it's been crap. We've not won 3 games on the bounce since December 23. We're outside the playoffs. But I want to say thank you to him. I'm sure he's watching, for things like Dapo's late winner at Fleetwood, comebacks away at Accrington, Dion's first goal and the limbs at Shrewsbury. Sorry, I've got to put some Fleetwood person in the corner of my eye making gestures.
Have a guess.
Away in our 5,000th game. Playoff semi-finals, a final, a Papa John's weekend out. You know, I mean, it goes on. 50% win ratio, got to get that in there. Sunderland 6-0, Archie, thank you. There's just so many. And he has rekindled my passion for watching Bolton Wanderers again. So on a personal level, I'd like to say thank you, because he's done a lot for the club. So let's remember, I know he's not dead, but let's remember him.
I was going to say that. He's not dead.
I say, Benji got a
He's gone jumping off a bridge.
Put some piano music on, Ben, and some black and white pictures of him, something like that, and then a date at the end. But yeah, he's worked wonders for this club. So cheers, Evo. But how do you think about it? Obviously, he got his knob out on his phone.
Allegedly.
No, allegedly. You saw it.
Yeah, but it might have been edited, mightn't it? You don't know, do you?
AI does my thing.
AI, yeah, come on, Grandad.
It's a grok.
AI? He was 3 years ago. It was his 5 years ago.
It was his what, Angie's grok?
That grok thing, is it called grok?
Obviously, there's been misdemeanors, there's been digs at fans, there's been headbutting players, there's been all sorts. But I think a lot of it, apart from the phone thing, just shows that how much he cared and how passionate he was for the club. So you can ask no more than that. So, Ian, thank you, but the door's that way, mate. Time for a new chapter. Thank you.
So you're going to cry then?
Jesus Christ.
Indeed. And on that note, the phone in is open. We've got a steady queue of guests waiting to bring you all this evening. And like I said before, the description on how to get involved is at the bottom of your screen. But if you DM us on Twitter, then you can, we'll pop you over a link and you can jump on and you can have your say. But first to the stage, Chris, you mentioned it before. Someone in the corner of your eye giving you some gestures. We are delighted to be joined by Nappers. How are you this evening, mate?
Glad to see you here. How are we? Okay.
We're all good, thank you. We're all good. I suppose it makes sense to kick things off. You've been an avid speaker on Bolton Wanderers and in particular Ian Evatt over the last few weeks. What's your take on the situation?
6 months too late. I think that
none of this kick-off with the supporters would have happened 6 months ago after a playoff final defeat. Yes, there was a feeling of regret at the end of the year that maybe something could have changed last year. But I think at the end of the playoff final, I think that unfortunately players came back into the building not really wanting to be there, not really kind of going back into a losing camp, still not over the previous season. And again, this year, I don't know what they did in pre-season, but they started the season so slow. I thought they looked so unfit compared to what they normally do. I thought Ian Evatt's size, even at Barrow, and he started his tenure at Bolton, looked so much fitter than other teams. And unfortunately, they've not been that this year. They've been miles off it. And there's been so many occasions where you could have sacked him and you haven't sacked him. And I think, unfortunately, the legacy has been tarnished a little bit. I don't think it would have been tarnished anywhere near as bad if it was done 6 months ago.
Very fair assessment. A very fair assessment. And yeah, we're very welcome in the chat, by the way. You've got lots of fans over in our chat this evening.
Ben, can I ask Ben a question? Ben, please.
I would love you
to. Where do we go from here, Nappers, pal?
I think you need someone to represent Bolton Wanderers, someone to represent your football club, the place as it is, and you need passion. You need someone to come in and motivate. And I think it's more than a short-term plan. You need a long-term plan. Now you really do. I'd be looking at Stephen Schumacher. I think he'd be the ideal candidate. I really do in every department. Anyone saying he wouldn't come down, I think is ludicrous. I mean, Bolton Wanderers are a massive football club at this level, and they would be at the league above as well. And he did okay at Stoke, considering what they normally do as well. But it's not really a massive step down. I really don't think so. I'd look at Des Buckingham, but I wouldn't be as keen. I think that bar the playoffs, I thought that the form of his side was pretty average. I think, you beat him in February last year 5-0. And 100 days later, he beats you 2-0 in a playoff. So, he would be on my list. I'd definitely avoid, like the plague, Liam Richardson. You cannot get him as manager. From experience, we've appointed Simon Grayson, Stephen Crane, obviously well, and now Charlie Adam. No matter what they do, it's Blackpool connections. You played for Blackpool, and some fans won't forgive and won't forget, and you need to avoid that. I know Big Sam's been mentioned. I really would avoid that. Yes, there's been connections, but it's like an ex-girlfriend. You just don't go back.
Big Sam and ex-girlfriend.
Wise words from Nappers.
Don't go back.
Nappers, do you think it's important for us to? I know you've name dropped a few managers there, but do you think it's important for us to get like what you consider an established manager? Because obviously Schumacher has kind of been there. He's kind of dipped his toe in a little bit in terms of gaining experience, getting Plymouth promoted, getting the job at Stoke. Do you think he's at that right kind of middle ground, or do you think we should go even more experience or a project job like Evatt was?
I think that what Evatt has done, to be fair, he has laid foundations there. As much as the last 6 months, preferably 3 months, have been poor, there is foundations. He has left you in a much better place than when you first found you. And even from your first season in League One, where you were 9th, let's be honest, I think you're 9th now. You're a much better side. You're a much better, bigger expectation. When you finished 9th in that first season in League One, it was almost like you didn't overachieve, but you did very well. I think you went on a really good run towards the end of the season where he's only finished 9 points off the playoffs, where it was ridiculous that year to get in. I do think, though, now you've got that project, I don't think you can waste any more time on a project. I do feel now it's going to be, you think about the teams in this division. Bolton Wanderers are just going to be another team, and every year a favourite. You look at Bradford in League Two, you look at Wrexham when they're in the National League, the big football clubs that don't get out, and they think they should do because they are who they are. So I do think now it's someone to kind of come in and finish the job. And I always said about Ian Evatt that, I always said he will manage in the Championship, but he will never get promoted to the Championship. And I still believe that. I still think Ian Evatt one day will manage in the Championship because the clubs will look at him and think he's had a good record. I just don't think he's ever had the kahunas to go that one step further. I never seen it in his blood. And overthinks it in big moments. You say about Schumacher, I think he's managed less games than Ian Evatt, but you look at what he's done in those games, all of a sudden he's done things quicker than Ian Evatt. And yeah, I do think it's very important now that the right candidate is selected.
Absolutely. Speaking of candidates, someone, Colin, that I believe you've mentioned quite a few times that you might like to go and, I think you're saying it in jest more than anything, go and pinch him at another
definitely
League One
do,
team.
yeah. Definitely do.
It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Who let him on? Nappers. How are we all?
Good, mate.
Very good.
I bet you are. You feel like you popped a spot?
Oh.
It's finally itched to scratch.
It's finally gone.
Itch.
Yeah. I'm surprised. I'm happy for all of you lot, but I'm absolutely gutted in terms of being a playoff rival. I'm absolutely gutted. As much as we try to keep him in a job.
How are you a playoff rival?
We're only 3 points behind you.
We battered you. You were crap. You no way you lot end up anywhere near a playoff.
3 points behind you, Colin. 3 points behind you, same game.
All the turmoil that we're going through, we absolutely destroyed you.
What you don't understand is, Cole, is we tried our very best to keep Ian Evatt in a job this last couple of weeks. What we did was we just essentially just threw the game plan out the window and went, do you know what? We quite like Ian Evatt, so we're going to try and keep him there. I kind of was expecting it after the result last night, but by all accords, according to Ian Evatt, of course, he thought you played well. I don't know whether that's the truth. I wasn't able to watch your game. I was preoccupied with Wigan Burton. Sorry. It wasn't a surprise, and it's been coming, hasn't it? And he's had so many cases this year where he's got a result out of absolutely nowhere to paper over the cracks. And unfortunately for you guys, it's always felt like Sharon would keep him in a job because of what he's done and stuff like that. But no, I'm happy for you lot that you finally got what you wanted. I agree.
Sorry, mate. You just said at the start, obviously, candidly, that you were hoping he'd stay on. But on a serious note, do you perceive Ian Evatt to have been a hindrance to our title hopes in the last 6 months? Is that what has been holding us back?
I think so. I also think that, and I've said this before, certainly while you've been managed under Ian Evatt, and don't take this the wrong way, I feel like sometimes the way that Ian Evatt plays is arrogant. It's absolutely, we want all of the play, we want all the possession, we want all the chances, and there's no plan B. And you've essentially what teams have done is one team's figured out how to play against you, and everyone's gone, all right, we'll just do that, and we'll completely rifle, but we'll just stop Bolton. And all of a sudden, more teams are doing it, and you're dropping more points. So I think so. I also don't think that the way he is in the media, I don't think that helps at all. Obviously, we all know about how good PR helps and having a positive spin on things all the time. Ian Evatt, certainly the last couple of weeks with his comments, are sort of, for me, I've watched his things on Twitter and gone, has he actually just said that? Like,
Jake,
genuinely.
Jake, did you see his comment last night? I mean, bearing in mind that he lost his job last night, his parting shot was to say that Charlton have to play a certain way and he could never watch that every week.
Yeah, I did see that. I just thought it was a bit rich.
He has a point, though. To be fair, they are.
Yeah, he does.
Pretty.
But they're effective, and they won the game yesterday. So I think I'd rather be in Nathan Jones's position because he's in a job than Ian Evatt. So
correct. Yeah, exactly.
I've always said I feel like he's a bit arrogant. I mean, I've never particularly been well enamored to the bloke. I've not particularly liked him, mainly because we always lose to you. So I think Schumacher would also. I think Ben's right there about Steven Schumacher. He predominantly played a 3-back at Plymouth, so I think you guys have got the squad for that. Certainly bringing in this lad from Newcastle who can be quite an adaptable left sort of centre back / wing back or whatever you need him to be. But yeah, I mean, I like Schumacher, but I'm also a massive advocate of taking a chance on somebody. Like you've seen it, Kieran McKenna, whilst he was known for being a coach at Man United, what had he done before going in at Ipswich, and look all of a sudden what they've done. And are Bolton and Ipswich massively different? I don't particularly think they are whatsoever. Schumacher himself.
I thought we could take a gamble on what's it called from that club in No Man's Land.
Here he goes.
Michael Schumacher. That's it. That's it. Michael Schumacher. I couldn't quite think of his name.
No, you want managers that can actually get into the playoffs on the final day.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Just thinking.
From clubs big,
Nappers. I'm not going to tell you twice. You're in League Two. Just park down, mate.
Yeah.
You're smaller than the National League. This is a personal fight, Nappers. We don't need to do it on the Fanzone podcast. All right. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I'm a massive advocate for the coach, the people that have gone and done their badges and come through. One name I don't think you guys would have even mentioned is Andy Crofts at Brighton. I know he was potentially in the link for our job when Michael got it. Really innovative young coach coming through at Brighton, who are a really good innovative club in what they're trying to do. So, I mean, like I say, I'm all for that sort of style. And you have to remember, Schumacher was technically was an unproven before he got the Plymouth job. So, you know, it's hard to sort of say, well, we want experience, but also when you take a gamble on somebody that's, you know, and what I think you can afford to do is this year, I mean, I think it's highly unlikely that anyone outside the top four are going to get promoted. So I think even if you finish in the playoffs, whoever you get in, I can't see them winning. I think you're looking at Wrexham, Wycombe, or Huddersfield, whichever one of them sort of finishes strongest in the top six. I think
Jake, on a serious note, though. Sorry, Jake. I respect it. I respect what you're saying and your opinion. Of course, I do. You talk loads of sense. I'd like both yourself and Nappers to chip in on this as well. You say that if we got into the playoffs, we wouldn't get it. You know, go up because of the fact that them squads or teams as they are. How does our squad compare to the mentioned clubs? Because for me, on paper, we've got one of the strongest squads in the division. So I'm a bit perplexed by that. In fairness.
Confidence.
Yeah, we got half the season to go, haven't you?
Yeah, potentially. But I think I don't know. I just think. Well, I think I think I've gone on a limb, and I've said it to Nappers a few times. I think Wrexham will win the playoffs. They are cup football perfect to win the play. They play the exact right style of football to win the playoffs.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So I think if you came up against Wrexham, you might have become unstuck.
I think that there's a couple of reasons for me, and without sounding too harsh, I think you've got very similar players. I looked at MK Dons last night and I went, you're very like Bolton. A lot of luxury players in there. You know, you've obviously Charles has left the football club, but Joe Randall's coming, McAtee, Collins, these types of players. Last year you had a John Daddy Balfourson figure who wasn't the greatest of footballers, wasn't a regular goal scorer, and wasn't an unbelievable player that you think is going to score. But you had something different. You had someone that could stick an elbow in there, that can really be nasty, horrible to defend against. It's League One. It's not the Premiership. This is, cutthroat football, in-your-face football, and you've sometimes got to be direct and go long. I think you don't have any of that this year. I think you're very, very one way of thinking, and that's what Jake said before. There's no plan B. I also think as well, I think the fans at Bolton are excellent. I don't mean anything by this. I think that the first 10, 15 minutes in games this year have dictated how they play. If Bolton Wanderers are knock a goal up, the fans get restless, maybe a bit too quickly, get on the players' back and they're worried. I think they are scared. Confidence, again, Jake said, to play in front of the Bolton fans at this moment in time. And I think that is the reason. Now you've taken Ian Evatt out of the situation, the fans are going to be electric again and be at the best again. And I think you'll see it not just because the manager's gone, but because the fans are calm. And I think it's very key how the fans are off the pitch. You look at the playoffs last year, it was very edgy on the pitch. The fans at Bolton, I was there, won them that game of football. They lost on the night, but we won them. It got them through that last 10, 15 minutes. They didn't have those fans. It was behind Barnes would have won that. So I think that not adapting, but also, again, I think the supporters, again, a bit restless, a bit on them. And the players are like, here we go. We're frightened to do things they wouldn't normally do. And they're a confidence team.
Fair enough.
Thank you both very much for your input this evening. It has been an absolute pleasure. If you want to get involved with the phone in, you know what to do. Drop us a DM on Twitter or the link is in the chat. It is being circulated. Get yourselves in. Up next then, some more EFL business. And we've got John Beer. How are you this evening?
How are we, everybody? How are we?
Hola.
Very good.
Hi, John.
It's an interesting one, this one. I think I'll be careful what I say because I've already upset one massive team in League One today in Birmingham, so let's not upset another one. But are we happy, everybody? I think the consensus from you guys is much happiness. So I don't really know what to say other than it's just felt like it's been coming for such a long time. Even from when we played you at the start of the season, we beat you at your place. In my opinion, it's never been easier to play against you guys than it has been in this sort of last 6 months or so, which it's a shame because I think Evatt's a really good manager, but I think it's sort of just, like has been mentioned before, became a little bit stale, didn't it? And people just found out how to play against you.
It did indeed. John, just for those of you who don't know who you are, can you, you've obviously, we've got some things coming out with you very shortly in the format of the EFL quiz, which people might have a little idea about. Tell us where we can see you.
Yeah, so I do a podcast called You Don't Know What You're Doing. It was formerly called My New Football Club with comedian David Earl and musician / YouTuber Alfie Indra. So we do a little podcast, which is sort of a less serious take on football and more sort of jovial and trying to be a little bit more looking at the different sides of football. So yeah, if you enjoy chat about players' appearances and all sorts of different things, and that sort of might be up your street.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for chipping in, and thanks for joining us on the phone in. We're going to hand over to our next guest, which is... Thank you very much. Our next guest, Mark BWFC. How are you this evening, mate?
I'm not too bad, are you?
Yeah, we're all pretty good. Tell us a little bit about yourself then. How long have you been a Wanderers fan?
Since I was 10 and I'm 36 this year. So the first season in Premiership under Allardyce, I've been home and away, done 74 of the 92.
Wow.
Nice little collection behind you. Looks like Dawson Dream, that.
I know, isn't it? Yeah, now I'm getting a little bit of inferiority going on here.
Yeah, I need to add to the collection. So the blue one is Zola.
Yeah, I can see that. He's probably one of the best footballers I've ever seen play live. Yeah. To be fair, that's a great show.
I've got Messi in my bedroom.
Right. So, how are you feeling about Ian Evatt's departure then? What does it spell for you?
I've been wanting to depart since the Oxford game. My main question is not Evatt related, though. It's more about the board. Do you have faith in the board to get the right appointment with the next? Based on everything that's happened, they've given Evatt chance after chance. If you believe the rumours that have come out today, he handed in his notice in after the Huddersfield game and they rejected it. Always misdemeanours, getting his private parts out on the internet, etc.
Allegedly.
Do you think do you trust the board to get the right appointment with everything? I don't think if it's a mutual consent, I think Evatt's walked rather than Sharon's pushed him. And I think if he hadn't walked, he'd still be in charge now.
I think that's a very, 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 very good question, that. Sorry. Yeah, Dan, you take it. Take it.
Since the board came in, they've given us no reason to disbelieve that they won't make the right appointment because everything they've done, both on and off the field, has been nothing short of exceptional, really. They've reignited that link between the club, the fans, the community. They've sorted out the commercial side. They've sorted out pretty much everything that was in the mire, refurbing the stadium, cleaning the stanchion, everything they've done. And Ian Evatt was a great appointment. So there's no track record to say that they won't do it. The track record would suggest the opposite. I think that Ian was given a lot more time than most managers would have done off the back of that we're not trigger happy and they're not trigger happy. But equally, because he was given time in his first season and it paid off. So there's every chance that they gave him that time based on what he'd achieved over the first 3.5 years. And let's not forget, he's taken us to Wembley twice. We've won the Pizza Cup final. We're in the playoffs, and we've progressed every single season since he's come in. So he deserved that time to try and turn it around and put it right. Yes, I agree that the time was right to make a change because it felt like we were going backwards. But equally, you know, having got promoted in his first season, then finished 9th, then 6th, then 3rd, he deserved that time. So it's a difficult one to say whether it was he's walked or he's been fired, but because a lot of the decisions these days come out as mutual consent, don't they? So we'll never know. But the proof's in the pudding, Mark. I think that if we get the right man in, we've still got 20 games to go. We've still 60 points to play for, and we're only 3 points off the playoffs. It could be very much in the next few weeks.
I won't mind going back to Mark's question because I think it's a really good one, to be honest with you, because I do think that I wonder, because it's obviously took such a while to replace our director of football and that kind of football decision-making person, whether that's had any impact whatsoever on the delay in us kind of getting rid of Evatt and bringing somebody else in. I think it's a good point because they're dragging the feet in replacing a really, really important role in the director of football position, obviously, you know, with Neil Hart leaving for MK Dons. You know, so maybe we are within our rights to question whether they're going to get this right. And I think it's a really good question, Mark, to be honest. It is a concern, yeah.
It's important.
Let's just right. So me and Ben are just going to apologise because whilst you were doing that really good bit, Dan, and then
I know, I can see what's going on.
You're killing me in the chat. You're actually killing me in the chat.
Whoever it was that put Connect 4, I think you deserve a lifetime channel member subscription to the Fanzone podcast.
Sorry, it was me.
Absolutely unbelievable. The chat is fantastic. There's that many funny comments. I can't even read them all before the next one comes up.
You're all in great spirits. Thank you. We wanted it. Good.
83 of you watching along, and for that we are eternally grateful.
1200. My God.
Mark, thank you very much for your contributions this evening.
Cheers, Mark.
Thanks for completing the Connect, the 3 in a row rather than 4 in a row.
Well, people are the best.
It's like a trick shot in pool.
There you go. Next guest then, another EFL legend. Some of you will probably be less happy to see this one than others, but Jack Ward. It could be anybody else. How are you this evening?
I'm good, guys. You okay?
Yes, I'm good. Now,
very good, Jack. Very good.
I can imagine.
As soon as I saw the odds for next Bolton manager, I instantly thought of you. The website that I've
taking the job. Am I on the odds?
the website I've got has Des Buckingham at 12-1. What would that appointment? What would that speak to you? What would it say to you? Is that an ambitious appointment, or is that a step in the wrong direction?
It's difficult, isn't it? I think. I'm in my own bit of trouble at the moment because I'm having to back down a little bit on my thoughts on Des Buckingham's departure in the first place because. Since I did that video, we've been pretty good. So perhaps it didn't quite go. My emotional, I think, and that's the thing. It was quite an emotional departure because of what he did and because of that game. Sorry to bring it up. It's probably the best place to bring it up. But that final at Wembley, there's a lot of memories that were involved in that. I did see that, and actually, I was going to put if I was going to put forward a shortlist. I think Des Buckingham might have been on my list anyway. I saw he's potentially linked with the Wickham job too as well. I think that's probably where Des Buckingham is looking at. But I don't know. I'd imagine it probably is a top end League One team. Maybe that might not be a position status right now, and Wickham and Bolton are in different areas. But in terms of the ambitions, I think Des Buckingham in his next job wants to look at a long term project. And I look at the Bolton project and the squad you've got there. You're clearly underachieving. You're clearly a better team than your current league status, and I think any young manager that has got a good record in League One of promotion and a very short tenure will look at that with a real sense of excitement. It would be weird, I think, for the fact that his biggest achievement in his career so far will be a result against Bolton, but it is. I still genuinely believe, and as I said in that video, that I now might look back with a slightly different feel towards. He's an extremely talented head coach. He's someone that I think will still go on and manage in the Premier League. I do genuinely believe that.
Sorry, Jack, to interrupt you. I remember you doing a video when he actually joined Oxford, didn't you? If you can cast your mind back that far. And obviously paying reference to the fact that he came from the City Group and he'd done such a good job managing in India, I think, from memory. So you've been an advocate of this for a long time, haven't you?
I have. I think he's extremely talented, and the jump into League One to the Championship is mighty. It's a big jump, and also it's a big jump with who you're going there with. If you know what I mean, he's going there with Oxford United. He's going there with a club that the budget is far smaller than what he's currently looking at, and he's going up there with the playoff winners. Pompey and Derby went up as in the top two, and Oxford were outsiders. Going into the final day, we weren't even in the top six. We did a fantastic job to guide our way through that playoff campaign, and he got there with a great win at Wembley too. But yeah, I was really excited by the appointment initially. I think he is someone that's got a fantastic pedigree abroad. His CV at such a young age is fantastic too. He's got a CV that managers in their 60s and 70s will look back on and go, that was really fascinating. He's only, I think, late 30s. So he's got that real sense of I think cultural experience too, right? I think that's important. You can have your experience as a head coach in managing in England too, but he's managed in other countries. He's managed in different cultures. India, he did a stint in Australia too, and New Zealand. Sorry, I think was where he was assistant manager for their national team. So he's done a great job in a variety of countries. And if you look at his record in England, it's not bad. It's good. He's got promoted at the first time of asking. Oxford just felt that if we wanted to stay up and we prioritised staying up or giving us have a better chance of staying up in their view, than maybe going down a slightly more emotional route. And on reflection, we can look back on it now and go, well, perhaps that is a good call.
Yeah, for now.
Good point.
But now, yeah, we lose the next 3 games. I win back.
Exactly.
Thank you to you all joining us in the live chat this evening, and thanks to you, Jack, for joining us this evening. We'll move on to our next guest, but we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks very much.
No worries, guys. Speak soon. Cheers.
Good luck.
Nice one. Bye. Right, up next is another Wanderers fan in Abid. Abid, are you with us this evening? Yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we've got you loud and clear. How are you this evening, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. What about you guys?
We're all good. What we're going to do this time round, Wanderers fans, I want some names in the chat. Obviously, the odds are all over the shop, but I would like you to get your candidates into the live chat, and we will go through some, have a little chat about who we like, who we don't like, and some potentials for that. But Abid, what's your initial reaction to the Ian Evatt departure?
I think it is the right decision. Obviously, he has for weeks I have been, not gonna lie, I've been calling for his head, but ultimately you look back, he's done a good job. He took over, obviously stabilize, he set the foundations, if you like, but I just think the last 12 months has been really, really stale, and I just think it's the right call. We need someone to progress us further.
Absolutely, I think we'd all tend to agree with that. I mean, the chat is heavily leaning towards Michael Schumacher. There is an unfathomable amount of people suggesting him. A couple of shouts for Gary O'Neill as well. Abid, what would you make of that appointment? Gary O'Neill, obviously, been with us before in a player capacity. What would you make of that appointment? Obviously, recently leaving Wolves.
The only thing, would he drop to League One? I'm not sure.
No.
I think it's highly unlikely.
The sentiment's there, and I can see why people.
See that last comment, Carl?
My mum.
No.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Big Sam.
It's you. Where's your prop?
Sorry, yeah. That's...
Wait, got there in the end.
There
Any
is
more potential managers here?
plenty of candidates coming through.
Oh, hey, no, we're talking.
Give it him to end of season. Who else have we got?
What
do you reckon to him? Can we give it him for a bit? Little Greek god.
Oh no.
Oh no, we're talking. That'd be a manager, wouldn't it?
Oh. Yeah.
Get him on touchline. No good for the audio listeners, this, but I've just listed Ivan Campos, Stelios Giannakopoulos, and John McGinley. What do you reckon to them appointments? I mean, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? All three of them on touchline.
Yeah, but like realistically, I'd probably go for Schumacher, like we said, because he's got promoted out of this division, and let's be honest, he shouldn't really be in sacked at Stoke. I think their fans didn't agree with it when we got rid of him, so I think if we can get
agree more there, Abid, to be fair. I think the one thing that people haven't mentioned tonight about Shuey is that he won the league above that Ipswich side as well that went on to get back-to-back promotions and are currently in the Premier League. The Pizza Cup final as well. All right, they got humbled that day, but he's local. Should still technically be in charge at Stoke. It was only the fallout with Johnny Walters as to why he left that position. The Stoke fans were gutted that he'd left. He's the only man for it for me. Get him in. I'd hope that they've had preliminary discussions already. The timing for me with what's gone on and what's happened over recent weeks. So I'd like to think that they have an iron already in the fire and hopefully someone's in the dugout come weekend.
Yeah. I do think the only thing, obviously, we could get him, but because Evatt's gone and the transfer window's all open, and before like yesterday, we'll have been looking at players. What do you think happens now with the rest of the transfer window?
We've still got 10 days left, haven't we, really? So depending on as and when, it's a very good question, to be fair, Abid. But yeah, so we've still got 10 days left, haven't we? So there's still time to do it, depending on if the work has been done behind the scenes. And I know it's not a nice thing to have a position backfilled when a manager's still in situ, but we all know it goes on in today's day and age, don't we? We know it went on at Everton. You know, Dyche left one day and Moyes was in the next. So let's see
I think it points to how much trust they put in Ludonautic's and what's it called? The guy who from Huddersfield, I forget his name.
Malcolm.
We also don't know whether he's left yet, so a lot will hinge on whether he sticks around.
Yeah, but I think because of obviously the data-driven approach to players, I'm sure that they put a lot of trust in Markham and Ludonautic's to actually make the signings in the most part. So maybe the manager
doesn't
really
they'll
matter
go
too
for
much.
a manager again, or they'll go for like a head coach and just plug somebody in to Markham and and stuff like that. Obviously, we know that Craney, Gilks, and Atherton have gone. But would they bring in more of a head coach as opposed to a manager, which appears to be the modern way to work with what they've got? There is a few changes that we need to make on at the playing staff level, but a manager might come in or a head coach might come in and work with what he's got, because equally, as we've all said tonight, we are underachieving. The quality is there. If the window's shut tonight, we have the quality to make the playoffs without a shadow of a doubt. So with a new manager bounce and somebody that can come in and do a job, they've certainly got the tools to do that job, haven't they? Even if we don't let anyone go or bring any more in between now and the end of the window.
Yeah, I think it's just the thing, because we let Dion go, and I do think we do need a replacement for him quick. Because even last night watching, obviously, like you mentioned before, it was better last night, but I do think at half-time we should have been 2-3 up. But I just think if we had some clinical striker, would have took the chances and stuff.
He hasn't been good for a while though, Dion, has he, Abid? We can't shy away from that. He's been pretty poor for a good maybe 6 months plus, hasn't he, really?
Yeah, I do agree, but I just still think we need to replace him.
No, I agree. No, we do.
You're right.
Absolutely. Right, what we'll do now is we will hand over to you in the chat. Abid, thanks very much for joining us, mate.
Cheers, my pleasure.
Take
care. Cheers. Cheers,
mate. Cheers. So, all of you in the live chat, there's plenty of you. 1,350 currently watching along. Get your comments in the chat and we will have a chat about them. Give us some questions to answer. Let's pick some out. First one, Johnny Wander, it makes sense to go with you. Evening all, Shuey and a big physical striker gets us up into the playoffs. From there, who knows? No one would have put money on Oxford in last year's playoffs. Obviously, Abid then talking about a replacement for Dion Charles. Ian Evatt mentioned before his departure the need of a replacement, potentially along the lines of Didier Drogba, if you can find one of them in League One. But transfer business, manager appointments, the board have certainly got a busy week. Ange, are you in agreement with that? I mean, manager's one replacement. What a management replacement is one thing, but a striker replacement is another. But in terms of a big physical centre forward, would you be in the market for one of them?
Oh my God, we're crying out for one of them. There's nothing I want more right this moment in time than a big centre forward. Thank you very much.
Oh, God. Where are you going?
Oh, it's Colin sneezing. Bless you.
Gesundheit.
He's not been well, peeps. He's not been well. Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. And somebody mentioned it in the chat, actually, a little bit before when you were kind of touching on the head coach thing, that Evatt did come to us originally, didn't he, as head coach, and then they changed his title to manager. So I think they've been down that route before, but I don't think Ian Evatt's the kind of man to be a head coach. He would always want to be a manager. So you never know.
Good point from Jim. Watching them bring those big units on last night made me really, really realise just how much we needed something similar.
We look like Sabutio players.
Yes, we did. Dan, do you agree with that? Is that something we're missing?
We definitely need that alternative, don't we, to McAtee, Collins. Obviously, Victor we have, but doesn't appear to be reaching the heights we wanted him to. If we can replace Victor potentially, or bring in somebody of a better standard than Victor to give us that alternative approach. Absolutely, I think we need that, because to go direct in some games when teams are sitting in is obviously a different approach that we can go for. But I think Collins is the man that is great when it's played in behind and he can get on top of it, whereas he in recent weeks has had the ball lumped up to him. It doesn't suit his game. Whereas last night with that ball through to Tutu that he played into Collins, that's where Collins really excels for me. That he can get in them channels and chase and create and score goals. So yeah, we definitely need a different tact in terms of a striker. So I would be looking at a target man option if we can.
Michael Smith, Chris, what are you saying?
Yeah, he's been mentioned, hasn't he? And he is that perfect fit. He is 33, but he's done the leagues. He's strong. He's still fit. He's playing at a higher level.
There's a young man who scored for Burton last night. He'd do a job.
Oh, the Icelandic fella.
Yeah, he's looks all right.
He's got his own clap.
Yeah.
Wonder if we could do a deal and have Victor back and we'll swap him.
It's not a bad show. Get back while we're there. No, I think we've had. Sorry, I was going to say success with Cameron Jerome, but we did have some moments with him last season. Obviously, Scotty Arfield hasn't worked out, but that experience, 33, whilst it is experience, it's still just on the cusp of prime as it comes to a striker, perhaps just slightly over the hill, but he's still a hell of a proposition at League One level. But I imagine whoever comes in, obviously given the timing, they will have their own contacts, a little black book of players who they would see. You know, if a new manager is coming in to be interviewed, they've got to put a compelling proposition forward as to why they think they're the right candidate. And that is not just their own experience and acumen as a manager, but it's also what they think in terms of personnel is going to kick us on to that next level. So whilst it is close to the end of the transfer window, I think I saw Jack Dearden say, is it a knee-jerk thing? It's necessary, and I think that there is still time to do something and do some good business in this transfer window. And whoever comes in will have those ideas ready.
I mean, Chris, I'm not being funny, but if them rumours are true and he offered his resignation after that Huddersfield game, you know my reaction after that Huddersfield game,
God, yeah.
and how that was for me was the final straw for me. But if that's happened and they've not accepted that resignation, that's poor, that mate. That's poor.
Oh no,
because you've got such an opportunity there to salvage a season.
Yeah, of course it is. It is.
Do we think though that was a catalyst for them to start to look? The fact he's tried to allegedly, a lot of allegeds going on tonight, handed his notice in. There's conversations there's rumours that conversations have happened in the past few weeks, months or whatever. It might be that it's a sealed deal and they're just being respectful to Ian to say they're currently entertaining or interviewing. We don't know, do we? We're not.
It's a really good point, though. They're not daft. You don't come into a football club of this size and suddenly find yourself with no idea of how to run a business. They're very clever people, and they will have had a contingency plan right from the day that Evatt signed on what do we do if it hits the fan, and where do we go if it goes wrong.
The financial element, obviously, the decision. Keep mentioning these two words, which is mutual consent in terms of severance and payoff. Obviously, he only signed a new contract last season. He's got more backroom staff, or he had more backroom staff than we've had people in the live chat tonight. Obviously, they all need paying off. There's more to the structure than just a manager. There's a lot more behind it.
Quite a few kid men.
And it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to pay them off. I know, I appreciate, obviously, you've got to look at the projection, what we're going to lose if we don't have success this season. You've got to look at that, but there's obviously risk and reward. And the reward is that we don't have to pay off, or if we do have to pay the management team off, then it will be a severance. It will be a reduced rate, if anything at all. So we've got to look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, and if you look at from the board's point of view, the rumor that was floated around was that it was going to cost £2 million for them to get rid of Ian Evatt and his staff. So for them, it would have been a case of weighing up between spending £2 million to get rid of Ian Evatt or some sort of figure close to that, and then going through the cost of hiring a new manager, potentially bringing in his own players then in January and his own backroom staff, or do we give the manager that we've been with for 4.5 years the chance to just have one last go at it for the same price? In terms of risk versus reward, it's probably quite a safe bet.
Just to interject there, Ben, I think given our league position at the moment, and we've said it over recent weeks on the pod, that the league is so inconsistent and poor this year that we are going through what can only be described as turmoil, but we're still only 3 points off the playoffs, 4 points off fifth. That will definitely have had an effect on the decision and how long Ian's been kept there, has been given a chance to do it, because ultimately, whether you like the last 12 months or not, what he's done since he came in, he deserved that extra length of time because of what he's done for us over the years. And I like that we're not a trigger-happy club and we don't just pull the trigger at the first sign of any kind of issue, because we could have done it in 2020, couldn't we, when we were languishing at the bottom of League Two, and we did. So
Christmas,
we've got 20 games and we're 4 points off fifth position. The season is far from over now, and they may have even been using this time since Sharon's vote of confidence to line up potential replacements, because we know that there's not really anybody at the club now that can take interim charge for a significant period of time. So they may have just been buying themselves time while Ian was still in charge. Again, it's all speculation and hearsay, but
we don't know.
These guys are very savvy people, given what they've done both on and off the field, that I've got every confidence that the decision will be made at the right time, whether that's prior to the Huddersfield game at the weekend or after it. I don't think we'll be sat here next Wednesday without a manager, put it that way.
No,
absolutely. And what better time now then? We've got our next guest on the phone, and if you want to get involved, then you can do exactly that by DMing us on Twitter, and you will get the link, or find the link that's been circulated around in the chat. Come and have a chat and get yourself on the podcast. But we will now bring in our next guest, who is there's probably no one better place to talk about managers and the Football League as a whole. Gab Sutton, how are you this evening, mate?
I'm very well, thanks. Appreciate you having me on. Good to be here.
It is our pleasure, as always. I mean, it's probably best to start with replacements talk than anything else. Obviously, the odds have been circulated wide and far. There are plenty of names in the hat. What's from an outsider looking in, this appointment is crucial, no doubt. But in terms of personnel-wise, who are you looking at?
Well, I think Stephen Schumacher would be the standout candidate for me. Somebody who's won League One against Kieran McKenna's Ipswich, by the way, before at this level with Plymouth Argyle in 22-23 season. So again, I think that's a big tick in his box. I think he's still actually quite a relatively young manager as well. So I think he's somebody who would have the potential to grow with the club. He's clearly got some roots in the Northwest as well. So logistically, it might make sense for him from that angle. And I also like the fact that he can build teams that can play some good football at times, but also have a real efficiency about them as well. So for me, Stephen Schumacher would be my number one choice.
How many similarities do you see, Gab, in our team as it stands, or squad or whatnot, or starting 11, with what he had at Plymouth in terms of the personnel? For instance, Sabi Sean, is he on a par with like a Barley Mumba, for example? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Sure, great question. Very difficult. I've not had the chance to sort of do loads of digging there. I mean, I think... I don't think Bolton's squad is too far off. I mean, it seems to me, I've not had the chance to listen to what you've been saying on the podcast previously, but it seems to me like this is a capable squad that maybe just needs that bit of fresh energy. You know, to me from the outside, it looked like Ian Evatt had got a bit fatigued, a little bit sort of weighed down by it all. And listen, 5 years in modern management, given everything that sort of entails, can be quite demanding. And it seemed like a change was needed, maybe for Ian's benefit as much as for the club's in some ways. So I think that, some fresh leadership could be what's required. And I think this is a squad that does have a lot of potential in terms of kicking on into that promotion race.
With your wide knowledge of the EFL and obviously what that entails in terms of, you know, how teams progress in it and whatnot, would you see Ian Evatt's next role being, and at what level?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would like to see Ian Evatt take some time out of the game, because I've spoken to managers who have said that sometimes your time out of the game can be as valuable as your time in it, because you actually... you get a chance to sort of hit the reset button and spend a bit of time with the family and all the rest of it. But also you can kind of learn new things in a way that it's very difficult to do when you're actually in the Saturday, Tuesday grind. So that's the first thing I think Ian Evatt needs to take, maybe 6 months to a year out of the game, certainly 6 months, and then maybe come back in the summer. But I think that certainly what he's done at Bolton Wanderers, I think for clubs that are able to see the bigger picture and not just look at how things sort of unravel this season, I think they would see a manager who built a legacy at the club. I think somebody who transformed the style of football, somebody who achieved brilliant things, promotion in his first season, 9th, winning the EFL trophy, 2 playoff finishes and promotion challenges. I think, I appreciate that, Bolton Wanderers are a huge club, but I think they're decent achievements, So, I think if he wants to come back into the job, into management in 6 months or so, I think there'll be plenty of League One offers, that's for sure.
Interesting. I'm surprised you said that, I thought he might have to take a little bit of a step back, to be fair, but maybe obviously depends on the club, depends on the project, doesn't it? I do think that this job got too much for him, especially when things didn't go according to what he thought was right and the plan that he put in place in his head. And I think that's where he fell short, to be honest with you. So I think the job would have to be to quote, a smaller job, I think, for him to be able to kind of manage that himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gab, I'll just apologise for the musical squares there, but people in the chat seem to think that you and Ben have a look at each other. So they just wanted to see you side by side.
It's not canny. Look at that.
It's actually, it's missing a headband, Gab.
Which I think is what Ben was chuckling at through some of your chat. So
Hang on.
Thank you all very much for the
I'm used to people laughing at my opinions, don't worry.
Oh, it's certainly not your opinions. It's
certainly not. We would
the
not have
chat.
invited you on here if we thought your opinions were daft. You are a well-renowned EFL expert.
Yes.
Right.
Agreed.
Thank you very much for joining us, Gab. It has been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. Who do you guys want, by the way? Can I just ask?
Shuey, Gab.
Shuey, I think Shuey.
Yeah, it's pretty unanimous, really, isn't it?
I wouldn't mind Rob Edwards, but I don't think he'd drop, considering he was Prem only a couple of years ago. But I think what he did with Luton.
Robbie Cole, but got no chance ever.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. No, but you see what I'm saying. I think if we were in a stronger position, I think if we were maybe bottom half of the champion, I don't know. I don't know. I think he would do. I think he'd do a really good job for us personally. I think he's got that flexibility in his style as well that Bolton fans crave. Not afraid to mix it up, and yeah, what he did with Luton was nothing short of a miracle, really, were it? And we're a bigger club than Luton, so that's my logic behind that.
All right. Well, good to chat to you, folks, and hopefully catch up with you again soon.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Liam, just to say, new Ben, is off to Thailand, and his parents booked him a surprise restaurant for what was going to be his last pod. So he did say he would try and pop on if he was back in time, but yeah, unfortunately, he's otherwise engaged.
To the 1,635 of you that are watching along, you are absolute legends. 1,634. It's just gone down one.
Boom.
Yes.
Oh, the Wigan crowd last night.
We weren't far behind last night.
We're going to have to name a stand after Ben here at this rate if we're following in the footsteps of our fans down the road.
Unreal.
It has been phenomenal. You lot have been exceptional this evening. There are no more guests in the queue, and we have been on air for 1 hour and 27 minutes, almost 28. So I think it is time to wrap things up. What can we say? Thanks for this evening. You've all been excellent. We could not do this without you. So thank you all very much for tuning in. And
like it, subscribe it, comment it,
press the button.
Do it,
please.
Watch it. The schedule is as busy as ever. Obviously, Saturday presents the Huddersfield away trip. So tomorrow you'll have a preview show. So for those of you who are new around here and don't know what that is, we preview the upcoming games with another podcast from the opposition club, and we run through what to expect. Post-match pods return on Sunday, which could be an interesting one. So yeah, get your faces back in the chat. It's been a pleasure to have you. And until the next time, you've been watching the Fanzone podcast, sponsored by the incredible Eco1 Windows. If you want to find out any more about them, head over to our website, www.thefanzonepod.co.uk. And a very good night to you all. And up the whites.
Come on, you whites.
You whites.